Kill the Alligator and Run and Simpsons Safari are episodes of the popular TV series The Simpsons. Let's go, the credits. You might be wondering, why compare Kill the Alligator and Run to Simpsons Safari? The Simpsons have done plenty of travel episodes over the years, after all. Why not use something like 30 Minutes Over Tokyo or the Regina monologues? While those are compelling candidates for consideration, I believe these two episodes contain a special quality that is not present in a lot of other examples. But what is that quality exactly? Oh, it's that they're awful and I hate them! They stink, they stink, they stink! For full disclosure purposes, in 2011, when the No Homers Club compiled their list of worst episodes ever, I personally ranked these in the bottom two spots, edging out Codependence Day at number 3. And you guys know how I feel about Codependence Day. To put it mildly, I am not a fan of these particular episodes. But after Clockwork Orange style, forcing myself to watch them 3 days in a row, I can say definitely that even the worst Simpsons episodes have good stuff in them. Or maybe I just have Stockholm Syndrome. But either way, buckle up because this is gonna be a bumpy ride. This is the case for Kill the Alligator and Run. To put it mildly, Kill the Alligator and Run is known among Simpsons nerds as being a fairly notorious episode. A lot of the more controversial or strange decisions are the first things that come to mind. It has a little bit of a Homer versus Dignity problem. But I would contend that they overshadow a lot of decent jokes and amusing character moments. And, compared directly to the other episode, you can see this difference right from the get-go. Kill the Alligator and Run is the better episode because it has a much better Act 1. As much crap as I like to give this one, even I have to admit that the first act is fine. I mean, it's not perfect or anything. Homer's quick descent into madness is kinda dumb. But for an opening mini-story to get them to Florida, it gets the job done. Homer is the kind of character where just giving him a book of quizzes can lead to a bunch of funny stuff. When they get to spring break, there's another good run of silly jokes. I especially love Marge's response of "not now" when asked to show them her boobs. For the first 8 minutes, everything is pretty hunky-dory. Then Kid Rock shows up. The other episode opens with a bag boy strike, which causes a food crisis in all of Springfield, which causes the Simpsons to find animal crackers in their attic, which leads them to winning a trip to Africa, except actually not, but luckily they accidentally injure Homer and they pay him off. And that's how they get to Africa. Makes perfect sense. Don't get me wrong, the way they do it in Kill the Alligator and Run isn't exactly organic either. However, I feel the episode is much more self-aware that it's just a farce, and it's just trying to have fun with it. It's less about moving deck chairs in the plot, and more about just telling jokes. Speaking of which, the second reason why Kill the Alligator and Run is superior is because it has better jokes. I mean, come on, it was written by John Swartzwelder. There are gonna be good jokes in it. It has stuff like the MTV VJ joke, the "I like that lady," Homer playing piano, "I'm starting to dislike the man with the whip." A lot of the best stuff is actually the witty little remarks, like Homer not pulling over because there's no shade. If you've ever read one of Swartzwelder's hilarious novels like The Time Machine did it kind of contextualizes the humor in this episode. Like, this whole scene is utterly insane and is very different than the kind of thing The Simpsons usually does. I mean, they just got hit by a train and then decide to take a nap. Pretty bonkers. But ignoring the context of the series as a whole and looking at it as a screwball comedy on its own, and the logic of the joke works. Homer can go to the dining car, for example, because it is ridiculous, and that makes sense when using ridiculous Willy Wonka logic. If the characters in the scene weren't The Simpsons, no one would bat an eye at this joke. It's not the joke's fault the series is all hoity-toity serious about reality and stuff. Well, maybe it is a little. But the other episode, despite all those caveats and rationalizations, is still littered with mind-numbingly awful jokes. Like, take this one. Lenny says, no bag boy's gonna stop him from hosting a casual get-together. And then they pan over to Carl who says, casual? He's wearing a tuxedo! And then there's this one, which is probably the worst joke in the entire series. Bart is playing Safari Bingo and crosses out Warthog. He says, alright, I got another one. And Lisa says, hey, you didn't see a warthog. And Bart says, I'm looking at one right now. So Lisa yells, Mom, Bart implied I'm a warthog. To which Marge calls back, no one's a warthog. And Bart says, what about him? The joke is, There was actually a warthog in the car the entire time! The entire time! The warthog was in the car the entire time. This is literally the kind of joke they would do on Full House. Also Fuller House, I think. I don't know. The episode does have its share of good jokes in it, but for every good or even tolerable joke that comes along, it's followed up by something so weird and stupid that you wonder if a computer algorithm wrote it. Suitcase plus giant spider equals LOL. I've probably gone on for too long now, so I'm just going to leave the case for Kill the Alligator and Run right here. Ultimately, it's just a funnier episode to watch, and combined with the stronger Act 1, it ends up being a better package as a whole. But enough of that Florida stuff and that artist with a successful music career for 20 years. We've got a plane to catch. This is the case for Simpsons Safari. Simpsons Safari is an episode of The Simpsons where the family goes on a trip somewhere. And, unlike the other episode, it actually feels like an episode of The Simpsons. Everyone is written in character, the dialogue is realistic and natural, and the plot actually has structure. It's a weird structure to be sure, but at least we can say it's definitely there. The first reason why Simpsons Safari is superior is because the story is less incoherent. It is an episode in which the Simpsons go over Victoria Falls and then discover chimpanzees working in a diamond mine run by an unscrupulous scientist. It is still a more coherent story than Kill the Alligator and Run. Honestly, the story in Simpsons Safari is pretty typical by travel episode standards. A lot of it is the family going from location to location, taking in a bit of the culture with a few jokes thrown in. There are definitely weird twists and turns, like the hippo snoozing in the middle of a Maasai village, but overall, pretty standard stuff for this kind of episode. There are actually some nice cultural moments in it, showing the beauty of the location and its people. And the diamond mine, while extremely ridiculous, I get what they're going for here as a funny concept. It has nothing to do with the rest of the episode, but in its own cartoon logic, it kinda makes sense. Kinda. And at least Simpsons Safari puts up the pretense of putting common threads throughout the episode. They set up the concept of poachers early on, and then fake us out later with the Greenpeace guys invading. They even jokingly keep referring to the Bag Boy strike from Act 1. It's almost like they made an outline before writing this episode. Kill the Alligator and Run, on the other hand, pulls an alligator out of its ass in Act 3. The alligator was alive, yada yada yada. As a comedy, I don't expect them to spend a lot of time justifying its own plot. This isn't a Christopher Nolan movie after all. But I do expect them to at least justify why the Simpsons are on the run from the law for half the episode. That is not such an unreasonable request to have. Just throw in like 1 or 2 lines explaining the misunderstanding. Like, the alligator was actually in critical condition during the trial. The alligator went missing. Someone just substituted a new alligator as the town mascot. Say something. The fact that they didn't suggests they didn't even care. How can they not care? And as silly as the diamond mine is, at least they care enough to explain it. Simpsons Safari, the caring episode. Second, Simpsons Safari is better because Homer is way more likable. This is a pretty important point. Homer has a big personality, and his general mood can really dictate the tone of an episode. Really, this point is less about Simpsons Safari and more about the other example. Homer's role in this one is pretty solid overall. He has some cute moments at the grocery store and is super enthusiastic throughout most of the vacation in Africa. The only place where he falls into the dreaded jerk-ass Homer area is the way he treats the Bag Boys, but it is so brief and ultimately frivolous that it's not a problem. I think the difference between the two Homers can be identified by their musical moments. The Simpsons Safari Homer is just singing along with the radio joyously, pretending like he knows what he's doing. Or he's getting into the Maasai dancing and running around hitting bongos. All these moments are light and fun and playful. In the other episode, you have Homer interrupting a Kid Rock concert, declaring all for Homer, and then proceeding to take over and sing "We Built This City." The whole "We Built This City" running joke trickles into the other musical moments, and it never really becomes funny or even absurd. The other characters are clearly tired of it. There is a problem in general with Homer taking every single moment overboard, smothering any sense of subtlety with an oversized pillow. After a while, I'm just pleading with him. Please stop doing this. You're not funny. It's just annoying. In my humble opinion, Homer has never been more tiresome as a character than in this episode. Or, to put it another way, Homer needs the GTFO out of Qatar ASAP. Okay, thanks, bye. Simpsons Safari avoids a lot of these problems, making for a much lighter and less oppressive attitude among its characters. To make a long story short, the tone is much more Simpson-y than the other episode. Sure, it may have a couple clunkers in its jokes here or there, but so does the other one. At least Simpsons Safari doesn't insult the audience's intelligence or waste our time. It's just a silly travel adventure, nothing more, nothing less. Why would you vote for the episode where the characters look miserable half the time? Seems like a pretty open and shut case to me. So let's settle this once and for all and go to the verdict. Alright, I know which episode I originally ranked as my least favorite back in 2011, but I admit to going back and forth a few times when writing this review. For me, it really comes down to a case of an extremely uneven episode versus an extremely dull one. I find Kill the Alligator and Run to be the much more abusive episode overall, where it'll repeatedly just piss me off with its stupid plot points and character moments, but then it'll draw me back in with a couple funny moments or some actual rustic charm. Every time I try to leave, it convinces me to hang around. It's the 50 Shades of Grey of Simpsons episodes. Simpsons Safari, on the other hand, I just find kind of boring and unfunny from start to finish. It has this constant layer of malaise to it, where they wander from place to place, littering obvious jokes all over the African plains. There isn't really a plot to speak of until Act 3, and while Act 3 isn't as insulting to our intelligence, it's hard to say that all this crazy stuff that happens in it is really that much better than the other episode. They're both utterly ridiculous stories, it just has fewer plot holes. I kinda want to pick neither episode here and go, ha ha ha, both are losers. It's the angry Simpsons nerd. But that is so done already by now. So, if I had to pick only one of these episodes, I think I would go with Kill the Alligator and Run. Ugh. Maybe I just have a self-destructive streak or something, but I guess I can deal with that stupid alligator being alive the whole stupid time. Early on, there is literally nothing in this episode that indicates this isn't supposed to be a total farce. It's constantly dropping a bunch of red flags of, hey, don't take this so seriously. This isn't season 2 anymore, stop pretending like it is. So fine, you win, Mr. Alligator. At least you were surrounded by some good jokes that make sense in its crazy backwards Swartzweldian logic. You are better than an episode with no actual story, a bunch of uninspired jokes, and a diamond mine that comes out of frickin' nowhere. Actually, now I'm starting to think about it, it might be better than Codependence Day too. I like that. So that's where I ended up on this one. Kill the Alligator and Run is somehow the superior episode. Do you think I made the right decision, or should I have gone in a different direction? Maybe I'm being too mean to both episodes and you think there are far worse ones. Let me know in the comments, I'm curious to hear what you guys think. But for now, this case is closed. And let us never speak of this again.